Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we're going to be checking out the Masters of the Universe Origins Lords of Power Beastman. That is what the LOP sticker stands for on the blister bubble there. And if you guys don't know what's going on with this particular Beastman, Lords of Power was the original running title for the Masters of the Universe line in the 80s, and this particular Beastman mold here was first released as last year's PowerCon exclusive. Now that version, while it looked the same, it was painted orange and everything because it was meant to look more like that original Beastman prototype. They repainted him red for a retail release because now he is inspired by some early Beastman artwork, which is really kind of cool to see how well this works. Pretty cool stuff. Now, as we rotate this around to the back side of the packaging, we are treated to some brand new artwork of this version of Beastman charging into battle against He-Man up there at the top. And then down below that, we've got our cross-cell showing all the other figures in this particular wave. So let's get our LOP Beastman outside of the packaging, and we'll get a closer look at the figure. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our red Beastman outside of the packaging. As always, I do like to bring in the tape measure just to show you how these guys measure up. Of course, the figures stand at that 5.5-inch scale, which means they are also in line with the vintage Masters of the Universe toy line. And as I've already mentioned, this particular version of Beastman is just a redeco of the already released Lords of Power Beastman. Now, the orange one over here was part of a box set that was exclusive to PowerCon, and those were all inspired by the 5 original early prototypes for Masters of the Universe back when the working title for the line was Lords of Power. So that's where the LOP sticker comes from on this Beastman's packaging. But it's the same figure through and through. However, they just completely redecoed it this time. So now we've got Beastman with a full red body. We've got a yellowish gold color used for the armor that he's wearing, as well as the wrist bracers and the belts. Also, the belt is flipped around. Honestly, I need to look at that. I'm not sure which one is upside down. I don't think I removed the belt from either of these, so they must have put one of them on upside down. So anyway, the reason why this is so cool, why this redeco makes sense, is this particular version right here is much more inspired by one of the early pieces of artwork by Mark Taylor. If you guys are not already familiar, Mark Taylor is essentially the creator of He-Man and a lot of what we know of the early Masters of the Universe toy line. Most of his designs are what went into that original line, so he is absolutely one of the most important figures to the brand. And his design for this red version of Beastman was likely going to reuse the ape mold from the Big Jim toy line. And you can tell that just by the way it looks in that picture, but you can really see the inspirations that Mattel took from that original piece of artwork and put in this particular action figure right here. And I think that is pretty darn cool. So if you are not at all familiar with this particular version, it does function articulation-wise like all the other figures in this lineup, so you can still remove the head, you can pop it off that ball joint there. Of course, the head can also look left and right, it can roll around. The armor is removable. It's very much like the vintage pieces of armor, so you can unclip it, you can take it off there. You can see he does just have the furry body underneath. You can pop the arms out at the shoulders, but they can always go upwards, outwards, inwards, swivel at the elbow, bend at the elbow. You can swivel at the wrist. You can see he's got these crazy like claw things hanging down, but they're a bit pliable. They don't get in the way of the articulation. You've also got the hinge joints there, and you can remove the hands, but they are a bit hard to get a grip on. There you go. And you can pop those right out of socket there if you desire to do so. You can swivel at the waist. You can even pop the figure apart at the waist. It's a great way to remove the belt, but you can also pull the belt off just like on the vintage toys there. Legs can go outwards, forwards, backwards, swivel at the knee, bend at the knee. Got to swivel at a boot cut, and you can also remove the legs at this point here. This would be with most figures interchangeable boots. Of course, it's a little different with a character like Beastman here. He's not actually wearing boots. He does just have the sock-like feet, so there's no toes or anything sculpted on there. And yeah, like I said, Exactly the same figure that you might have already got if you've got that PowerCon exclusive set. If you didn't get that, now you have this mold. It does just look completely different. And of course, it's quite a bit different than your standard Beastman release as well. But nonetheless, I still think that this is a very cool addition to the line. He doesn't come with any accessories, which is a bit unfortunate, but otherwise, this is a really nice figure to have in the lineup. So it's kind of weird timing that I waited until just now to take a look at this figure. And really, there was no real reason for why it took me so long. It's just I've been really behind and I've been trying to prioritize different things for videos. But the unfortunate news, of course, if you are keeping up to date with news and everything from the Masters of the Universe world, you might have saw that just before Christmas, we lost Mark Taylor. He passed away. And this is incredibly sad news, of course. As I mentioned, he's such an important part of this brand that I love, that so many of us love. But also, he was a big part of the community. Mark Taylor has attended several PowerCons over the years. He's been really wonderful with interacting with fans. I've had multiple opportunities to interact with him. I've been able to conduct interviews with him for the Rose Scooble podcast years ago. I've spoken to him at PowerCon on multiple occasions. And as somebody who grew up with this brand, it's incredible to me that I've had some of these experiences to interact with the brilliant minds behind these toy lines. And the sad part of that is that for a lot of us that are, getting older now and that grew up with a lot of these lines that came out in the 70s and the 80s and even in the early 90s, a lot of these creators are getting older and we are losing them. And so losing Mark Taylor was pretty rough. It did kind of hit me, not necessarily just from the standpoint that what he did was so important to this brand, but also that because I've had that opportunity to talk to him. But I'm so grateful that I've had that opportunity. And I think that stuff like this, these amazing creators that work on these lines, these brilliant individuals that came up with, at the time, were just toys, but had these amazing impacts on us that lasted our entire lives up till now. I think it's so important that we're getting stuff like this. I know it's real easy to look at something like this, especially if you don't know what it is, you don't know what the backstory it is. Why would they release something like this instead of giving me, whatever figure from my childhood that I loved? Why haven't they remade that yet? But I think it's important to do stuff like this as well, just to honor those creators, those amazing people, those brilliant minds that came up with these properties that we love so much, right? I know you've got those big corporations out there who just keep churning this stuff out and they're finding ways to profit off of it, but at least we can at times do stuff like this to really honor the roots of the brand. And I think that is why a figure like this is so important, and I'm so happy to have it in my collection. Hey, I'm sorry that this review kind of turned into this, but I just want to say that I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget that, life is too short. Life is too short. So focus on the things that you love. Spend a lot of time with your loved ones, with your friends. And of course, I want to send all my love to the family and friends of Mark Taylor. Until next time, guys.